You're watching New Car Spin. I'm your host, Brian, and this is the Mazda CX-9 Signature all-wheel drive, and it has this 2.5 liter turbo. They call it a variable compression turbo or something like that. It's unique. It's also very windy outside, and this is the review or report I'm going to give you on this vehicle. So before I do that, I do want to say, if you are a Mazda fanboy, look away, because I'm basically going to tell you things you do not want to hear. First though, let me show you what the Signature has. That happens every time. Boom. It has captain's chairs in the back. But you'll also see our side screen here. It's manual. That's not bad. And pretty big pockets in the doors. The seats themselves fold forward and slide very easily for good access to that third row. I will not sit in that back row. If you've seen my previous CX-9 videos, you'll notice that I complain about how close the headrest of that third row is to the basically outside of the vehicle. Look at that. The headrests are outside of the car. I would not want to sit back there, but some people need a third row, I guess. Sit in here for a second. Now back here we have our controls for the HVAC. We have heated seats, which is nice to have, and built-in cup holders. There's also down here a slide out drawer. There's nothing up front for the back seat passengers, at least. Here we have a split armrest. There are two USB ports in there. They're not USB-C though. We also have some map lights, and you know, it's fairly roomy. Although the best thing about this back seat is that I could do this. That is a very large recline, and there is headroom in here, but you know, as far as these three-row SUVs go, this reminds me of the Dodge Durango I used to have. I had a 2019 Durango RT, and it was also missing things such as a panorama sunroof and a few other things like soft closed doors and whatnot. But the thing is, you get to these level of vehicles, and I'll tell you the price on this one in a second, but you have to then wonder, like, is this really a luxury car? And Mazda stands out as far as like their performance oriented options, but as far as like a luxury SUV, this is their flagship model. And do I think it's a great car? I mean, that's basically the question I'm trying to answer for myself, because there's a lot of hard plastic in here. The design is great. I don't think I'm a fan of this interior color, but it's really about how it drives, and that's really what Mazdas are all about anyway. There's no warning here either. Some cars give little lights or warnings that there's traffic coming, and I cannot see anything. So let's open this huge ass door blindly. And it doesn't open that wide compared to the competition, so keep that in mind. Some people need that access. All right. There is an updated design for 2021, because that's what this is. This is what the front end looks like now. I think it's an improvement, yet it still retains that shark nose. I like that. It looks really good. And folding mirrors, of course. It's the Signature auto lock. There we go. Now for the driver's door, there's some storage in there. You'll see that there's a Bose stereo, and I'll get to that in a second. Basically, I say Bose blows. The stereo in here isn't very dynamic. How do I say this? It sucks. Bose blows. It's not the best. I think it's an old branding thing that vehicle manufacturers got sucked into. Bose has been around for a long time. They've made better systems in the past, The newer systems just don't keep up with the competitive systems made by like Bowers and Wilkins or Bang & Olufsen, and the list goes on and on and on. Harman Kardon. It's a Bose. It just so that's the first problem. So basically, let me start this up. I'll show you my biggest deal here. Oh yeah, after I do that, let me tell you I got the window sticker right here too. Okay, so 2021, it's called Snowflake White Pearl. It's 227 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque, which is really good, actually. I think that the power on this engine is really good. The transmission is a little iffy. And all-wheel drive, we'll get into that too. Options, there are none. The sticker price is out the door, $48,100 before tax. So basically, fuel economy isn't that great, 26 highway. And this is like $48,000. I think I'd still be looking at other vehicles first. And vehicles that I would be looking at are older than this one. You know, they've been around for a longer time, but they have V6 engines. And that means that you could tow. Whereas with the CX-9, there's really no capability there. So we have our digital center display here. I cannot figure out how to customize the display other than pressing info here. There used to be a way where I can change what that right gauge would say, but on other previous Mazda models, but I can't figure it out here. So basically what I get are two fuel gauges. That fuel gauge, which shows the range, right there, 78 miles, and this fuel gauge here, and they're pretty consistent. You know, they're kind of accurate in that way. Radar cruise, yes, I have that. We have safety systems in here. We have parking control. We have the parking camera with 360 view. It's a pretty good camera. But you know, it's great. It's a good design. It's great tech. It's like it's like a Japanese Audi basically in here. Even though it's kind of a little not, how do I want to say this? The materials look good, but behind the surface, like when you really start looking at things, okay, the lower dash and things like that just sound a little nasty. But the nastiest thing about this interior, I'd have to actually get out to show you. And it's right there. It's called the driver's seat. This seat is tiny. There is hardly any room here. And on these seat bottoms, the outboard bolsters here are so firm, you end up sitting on the seat rather than in the seat. And I know you think, well, Brian, you're just a fat ass. And I'd be like, no, I've been going to the gym for 6 months and actually gaining weight at the gym. But this is a standard half-liter water bottle. And it's basically not that big of a seat if you think about it. There are bigger seats out there in pretty much every other vehicle. Now the back support is okay. It's got pretty good lumbar support, even though it doesn't go up or down, it just goes in and out. But it's just overall, this seat is the #1 contributor to my complaints about this vehicle. So what do you mean, Brian? Well, I'll tell you. Let's just go ahead and put the seatbelt on here. Hard to do with my microphone kit and everything. Okay. We have automatic climate control, and down here we have wireless charging and a slot to put all your crap. The problem is, like, when I put things in or out of here, like I'll have the heated seat on, for instance, and then if I put something in here, it might graze this button, and then all of a sudden, like 2 seconds later, I'm like, oh, my seat's cold. And that's because these buttons are really easy to hit. And unless you're sure auto is on at all times, like, you're gonna have this mysterious, like, how come the fan's not on, or how come it's blowing air down here? And it's always because, unless you know this light's not on, or that light, or, you know, these lights, like, just everything in this car is comical with this HVAC. That is, it's not a bad setup. It's just unfortunate that they didn't have an extra little lip here to protect these buttons from getting hit by items going in or out of that little pocket there. And then up front we also have the split, what do you call it, armrest here with 2 more USB ports, which is nice. And I don't know if there is cable routing. Let's see. Yep, there's cable routing here on the edges, and there, so you can get your cables running through the armrest there very, very efficiently. Heated steering wheel, yeah, we'll have some of that. Okay, so here's the thing about this. The seat is uncomfortable, and then you get behind the wheel and you finally try and find your comfort zone, and then you realize, wow, the armrest is way over here, and this armrest is lower than this armrest here, which is not adjustable. So I'm sitting in here. See if I can get you on camera correctly. Nope, that's not the way I want to do it. Hello. Let's see if I can do this. Go this way. So I'm sitting in here and I feel like I'm being pushed away from the center of the vehicle, and then I'm not sitting in the seat straight, even though the gauges and the steering wheel are lined up correctly. But I have all this room over here, and it's weird because they do this for your passenger side impact, or your not driver and passenger side impact, but it's for your protection. And the problem is, though, this door is way off to the side. It's way off over here, and there's just a lot of room, and I can't see if I could do this. There we go. I can't enjoy this interior as much as it looks like it's enjoyable. It's hard to explain. This car just is weird. So let's just get down to the nitty-gritty here. 310 pound-feet of torque feels really good all the time. Auto hold too, which is great for the drive-through. Put the brake down. Okay, so we'll just head off. You don't need much RPM to get this thing going. It's very torquey. So it almost drives like a diesel, even though it's gasoline. And it can run on 87 octane as well as the premium. I think it's 227 horsepower on 87 octane and 250 on premium. Don't quote me on that, but you'll see that if you look it up at certain sites. All right, so we're gonna go for it, all-wheel drive, kind of wet spat. Stupid transmission. Okay, so I'm already annoyed by the seat because I was not firmly in the seat. I'm on the seat, so it's hard to drive this thing, but it's a sporty-ish car, right? So you make your left, and there's really no balance to it. And what I mean by that is the steering is really heavy. The steering is like artificially heavy. I don't know how you can make the steering heavier than you would have if it was just basically not even power steering, but I think they've done that on purpose because the torque steer in here is god awful. And with 310 pound-feet of torque, everything goes to the front wheels first. And basically I can demonstrate this with a 0 to 60. So let me do that for you in a moment. Let me just adjust the exposure a little bit here. Okay, so I think what happens is you've got this uncomfortable seat, and then you have this steering which is way too heavy and not balanced, and it makes this car literally undrivable. And then you combine that with, oh, they must have made that steering heavy to fight all that torque steer. But I mean, I'm struggling to drive this thing more than an hour a day, and that's because this steering is just awful. And I don't know how anybody's wife could possibly want to drive a car like this all day, back and forth, soccer, school, gym, yoga, whatever else they do, and basically, oh yeah, the hair and the nails, but basically it's like this is an undrivable vehicle even from my standpoint, and I've been working out, right? So how can somebody's mom possibly enjoy driving this thing when it doesn't have a smooth ride, it doesn't have easy steering, and it doesn't put the power down properly to be enjoyable to drive. Now, yeah, it's got this lovely looking interior, and noise isn't that bad, but you know, let me just show you what that torque steer is like. We'll make this right turn here. That's good. Clear. So it immediately bites and wants to go further right. So while I'm making a right turn, it wants to oversteer basically, which is obnoxious. And then if I make another right here, let's go this way. All right, I got some traffic, but when it clears up, I'll show you hands-off acceleration, just so you could see what it's trying to do. Note, however, one very interesting thing, which kind of gives me a bit of a rise, is how this thing sounds a lot like a Volkswagen Golf GTI. Now that I said that, you're going to pay more attention to it. All right, so this is in normal mode. It's not in sport. It's normal. And I'm just basically going to put my foot down, not floor it, just maybe like halfway. Okay, so that's kind of straight, right? No big deal. But now, let me put it in sport mode. And then kind of straighten this out a little bit for there we go. And we'll go ahead and go for it. Floored. Look at that, it's going right. Now, granted, all cars will do that, but with heavy steering, when there's any little bit of input, it just starts taking it over. And because this thing doesn't have steering you're expecting, you just end up having to work extra hard to keep this thing in your lane or in the turn properly. And I just don't understand how this is Mazda's vehicle. Look at that. Oh, it snaps. I've never had that in a vehicle before. So you combine that style of steering with this seat, and everything becomes very distracting. I am distracted at everything in this vehicle. The stereo sucks. The steering sucks. The seats suck. And that's the problem I have here. I wish Mazda spent more time on it like they did with everything else they do. However, I've also said that their Mazda Miata needs to be bigger. They need to base their Mazda Miata off their new 3 hatchback and just ditch that MX-5 altogether. But, you know, that's just me being a forward thinker here and not coming from the standpoint of someone who loves Mazdas. I've never owned a Mazda. I don't have a problem with Mazdas, but I just think that there's always room for improvement. They can always do better. And yeah, there's that horse and rider combined thing, but this CX-9 is who's the horse and who's the rider? That's been my problem here. And it's literally the first press car in a long time where I felt like I should just park it. But the worst part, you thought all that was bad. The worst part, well, I'm just gonna have to show you. It's so bad. Let me just pull in here and show you the worst part of this car. Put the parking brake on, take my seatbelt off, turn the engine off, and get out of this thing. The worst part is that in December of 2020, I'm in Texas driving a car with California plates. That is not easy to do in Texas. It's a death wish, a complete death wish. But that's been my experience with this car for the whole week. So it looks great, the materials are okay, the price is all right, the engine's good, the steering sucks, seats suck, stereo sucks. I think you know where I'm going with this. If you're a Mazda fanboy, get the Mazda. If you haven't looked at the Toyota Highlander, look at the Highlander. If you haven't driven a Dodge Durango, look at the Durango. There's a lot of stuff out there, and the CX-9 really only hits the refinement point from the way everything looks, from the design of these seats, the Napa leather, you know, there are some touch points in here that really do make sense, but the rest of it just falls short for an everyday enjoyable experience. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Leave some comments. You wouldn't want to miss my next video, so be sure to hit the little bell to get the notification. Next week's going to be interesting. I'm going to have a really fun car. I'm actually looking forward to it. That's the first time in a while I've been looking forward to a Monday, because that's the day I get my press cars. So, yeah. All right, I'm going to go park this thing and head on to my weekend. Get this thing started. I wish I had more information for you on this car, but it's really just a Mazda CX-9 with a great engine, terrible steering, and unfortunately, I don't know why they did that, but I like the CX-5. If you don't need a third row, get the CX-5. That's a much better deal than the Audi Q5. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Mazda doesn't make all terrible cars. I'm not saying this one's terrible. I'm just saying, why isn't it better? I hope that makes any sense. All right, have a good weekend. Enjoy. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.